Alright everyone, it's time to hedge our bets. Will SCOTUS actually make a good decision? Because they tend to be kind of hit and miss when it comes to actually respecting the Constitution. They finally are taking up a case that could really impact gun laws in the United States. Not in red states, of course, but it could definitely be very helpful for people in blue states who are currently not able to properly exercise their right to defend themselves. A proper interpretation of the Second Amendment, which is rather terse and to the point, would obviously, I'm going to say obviously, although in the law what is obvious is not necessarily what is actually legal or illegal, keeping that in mind because it's so obtuse, it's fairly obvious that the founders would not have said that you have to keep your musket in your house and you're not allowed to carry it anywhere, or that you're not allowed to have your pistol in your shirt as opposed to on your waist. It's fairly obvious that the intent of the Second explicitly and implicitly protects the ability to use weapons not just in your home, not just flashing them around open carrying, but in a concealed manner. And so in the state of New York is being sued right now by several individuals who are being prevented from concealed carry, and they're arguing, well, the Second Amendment clearly allows me to carry a weapon concealed. Now, I would look at it as just an issue of basic common sense. The state's not saying you can't open carry, or that you can't have a weapon outside of your home. It would make the transportation of weapons specifically impossible if that were the case. Nobody's arguing that. Why then is the location of the gun on your body pertinent to the exercise of your rights? It's cut and dry. Of course, in my opinion, I'd say no. Of course, if the gun is in your shirt, it's no more lethal than if it's on your waist, on your belt, in a holster. It doesn't make it more lethal. If anything, it makes it slightly harder, potentially, to get to actually deploy. Why should you have to advertise to other people, hey, look at me, everybody, I've got a gun? And by the way, the leftists that design laws like this, aren't they always complaining about open carry, usually? Like, they don't, I mean, if you're concealed carrying anyway, isn't this, by the way, semi-unenforceable? Oh, I've got a gun inside my shirt. Well, if nobody knows I've got a gun inside of my shirt, okay, I'm breaking the law in an impertinent manner, but nobody knows that I am. What's the fucking point? You have to wait until someone bends over the wrong way, their gun falls out. Well, you're going off to the hooskow now by violating New York state law. You have to carry that gun in your hand or on your belt. You're not allowed to carry it inside your shirt. What are you, some sort of madman or terrorist? But here's the thing. We see that SCOTUS, and this, you got to realize, SCOTUS is very narrowly conservative. The idea that John Roberts is a conservative, he's a Bush appointee, he's like a rhino, like a neocon. Basically a neoliberal. They're the same thing. He's not pro-liberty. You do have 5 conservative justices, but as we've seen, several of them, both of the Trump appointees, other than the Scalia replacement, can be a bit flighty when it comes to these things. The fact that the court, though, and this is the positive news, the fact that the court is even taking up the issue, which could considerably expand the meaning of the Second Amendment, the fact that it's even considering it, in my opinion, is a good indicator. They will probably accept the argument of the plaintiffs. Roberts will probably side with the liberals. It'll be 5-4, and it will make sure that people can concealed carry. That being said, they might try to insert some wiggle room, some weasel word, lawyer speak language into their decision in order to make it not so black and white. It's rare that the court issues decisions that are that sweeping. Like something like gay marriage, it was sweeping. They simply decided gay marriage is now the law of the land. But it's sort of a yes or no situation. There's really no middle ground to be had there on that issue at that time. In most decisions, though, they try to be as loose and vague as possible, unless it's some blatant and extremely important issue. Is concealed carry as compelling as, for example, legislation that would deprive a segment of the population of guns outright? No. And so the court might say, well, I mean, yeah, okay, their rights are kind of being violated, but they can still open carry. It's not like people are saying they can't have the gun. I mean, in New York, you can't really defend yourself in public anyway, so I don't know why you bother carrying one, I guess. Unless somebody is actively shooting at you, you can't even fucking use it. They come at you with a knife, you'd probably be the one in jail if you shot them. New York, California, a few other places, oddly enough, Vermont in some circumstances. There's a duty to retreat even on your own property, believe it or not, in the state of Vermont. So in other words, burglars, don't beware. You're not in for any scares because that heavily armed farmer there, if he knows anything about the laws, just say, fucking take my TV, I'll just buy another one. See you next week, pal. Yeah, my burglar friend Ben over there, he's got so many TVs, I don't know what he's watching on them all. With porn. It's Vermont. It might involve sheep. Will SCOTUS affirm the obvious? I'm not positive they will, but I would feel positively about the likelihood. I'd say it's like a 70-30. They'll probably side with the Second Amendment on this one because they are taking up the case. They have been so astronomically reluctant since the 2000s on taking up any case involving gun rights. Every single year, their docket's full of plaintiffs complaining that their rights are being violated, but because there's not a national hegemonic sort of zeitgeist in favor of guns, or hasn't been until very recently, they've been reluctant. Now, though, you have literally millions of new gun owners. You have record-breaking sales almost every fucking month for several years now. You have a population that is, I think, increasingly concerned about crime, and maybe the SCOTUS will be less reluctant now. And now is definitely the time, when you've got a narrow conservative majority, that's the time to take up anything with regards to guns. Just as if they were going to revisit Roe v. Wade, I would hope that it was during a position in time in which the liberals had the SCOTUS, because of my particular feelings there. Almost gravitating back and forth. The SCOTUS can be a good force for liberty, but unfortunately only if it takes up certain issues, because then it'll err on the side of the actual Constitution. Again, it's a cut and dry thing. If I were on SCOTUS, I would, from in point blank, I would just say, well, what's the use of having a Second Amendment at all if you can't effectively carry a weapon? That's sort of the point. And most of the and I love it when they like you hear people on the left that'll be upset if they actually construe the Second Amendment that way. They'll say, well, you don't need an assault rifle for hunting. Okay, if hunting is the litmus test, that would indicate you're outside, correct? Well, then you have to at least open carry your weapon in a public place that's not your property. Unless you own 200 acres of woods and you just hunt there or something, you're somewhere else. You're on public land taking a deer, and gives hunting license and shit. That's not your home. You don't hunt deer in your bathroom. By the way, it'd probably mean negligent discharge. Anyway, it's funny that you could probably get in trouble just for firing your firearm in your own house. Like, let's say you're just like in your basement, you say, fuck it, and you just start shooting your weapon. Bad idea, by the way, disclaimer, don't do that. But if you just suddenly lose it, you'd probably get arrested. A public nuisance, maybe. Make sure to use your suppressor so the neighbors don't know that you're completely batshit. I'm hoping that they affirm, in this case, the obvious. I am happy that there's a narrow conservative majority. Now you watch, one of the conservative justices kicks it before they can make the decision, and it ends up a 4-4. That's about all. Peace out.